Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Welcome this Friday, the 13th. I am Robert Press, your host. As you will see, I am a certified journalist with the Bronx Chronicle, New York Parrot TV, Parkchester Times, and Co-op City News. Today, Mayor de Blasio, Mayor Adams was here in the Bronx at a school to make an announcement about education. And that was at 8 a.m. And I obviously missed him. So let me introduce my co-host to you, Anthony RIVIECCIO. And Anthony, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Happy New Year, everybody, and good morning. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, who happens to be a very happy person this morning. Why? Because my first life is I am an adjunct professor of personal finance for both Herbert H. Lehman College and Monroe College. And as of last night, I get to send your kids home back to you after they take their final exam. My second life is I am the owner and CEO of a virtual financial service firm called RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors. And my third life, which brings me to you, is I am the founder of a wonderful political organization here in the Northwest Bronx called Northwest Bronx Democrats.
Well, Anthony, let's start the show with anything new in the Ukraine. Are they still fighting? Are the Russians dead? Have they taken over the Ukraine? Has, what's his name, the leader of Russia, he said there was reports that he had cancer. Has he died yet? What's going on in the Ukraine, Anthony?
Robert, that's a loaded question in a lot of different ways because, of course, number one, I can't answer with any specificity because I'm living here in New York, not in Ukraine. But
there's you had a girlfriend there in the Ukraine.
No, but there's a lot of little things happening, you know. Supposedly, according to reports, Putin's top generals are suddenly, visiting the good Lord. There are parts of Ukraine where Russia is moving in. There are areas in Ukraine where Russia is pushing back. There seems to be many confirmed reports that, let's say, Putin's physical appearance seems to be changing. Some people say he has cancer. I don't know. I call it old age, right? One day my hair was brown, then it was black, now it's gray. So who really knows?
So in
what
essence,
we do know, according to our U.S. government, is that there is an economic package that passed the House but has not passed the Senate, where they want to give a military budget almost 6 times higher than the budget that the government of Ukraine allocates for their military budget. So here in the U.S., even though, of course, we support Ukraine and we have supported Ukraine in many different ways, this current package, it seems to be up for debate.
Well, this is going to be another loaded question, Anthony, because people say Joe Biden's old. He's not in good health. So who would be in better health, Putin or Joe Biden?
Who would be in better health? Well, the only reason I'm going to say Joe Biden is because I know Joe Biden has a tougher wife. Putin has girlfriends, and I don't know if they matter.
Oh, so that's the problem. Well, let's go into our favorite topic while we were speaking about Joe Biden, Bidenomics. And how has our stock market portfolios done this week?
Well, Robert, that's another loaded question. And the Ukraine war does have a small part of it this week. Bidenomics this week is another week that has literally gone off the wall. I'll go into more specific detail on the Financial Focus University show this afternoon at 5 p.m. But to share with you just some parts of the economic week, not barring today, which I'll talk about in a moment. For the week, the market is down 5%. I'll say that again, 5%, and not even a week, in 4 days. Now, today, as of this conversation we're having, the market is now up 1.5%, not for the week, just for that day. So again, when you subtract it from the week, it's going to be another horrible report, another horrible bar press index. And there were some common sense reports that, are coming out that layman people can understand. There was a report, I believe it was in the New York Post this morning, that just very simply said in layman's terms, what are your real wages looking like? It's good to know that wages are up 5%, but if inflation is up 8%, well, how strong is your money? So our economy is going through a number of backflips. Joe Biden said it himself. He was asked the question within the last 24 hours, who's the president of the United States? And he said everybody. And the reason why he said everybody is because we have a divided government. So there's no way from a fiscal point of view, in my opinion, we're going to have any determined policy to correct many of the problems that we're going to have. But the sadder part is that if you leave it up to the Federal Reserve Board to solve some of these economic problems, well, Jerome Powell, who is now going to be confirmed again for his second appointment as per the Senate this week, his position is very simple. He said in the last 24 hours, don't be surprised in not our next meeting next month, but in our next 2 meetings coming up, that we consider a 50-point basis interest rate hike per meeting for the next 2 months. He didn't commit to it. He just said, don't be surprised.
Yeah, but what we're seeing now are shortages. I mean, we're seeing shortages now in infant milk. I mean, there's nothing on the shelves. And parents are watering it down, which is not being advised. And women are actually being told, breastfeed their children. That's better than whatever you buy in the store. So
Bob, don't forget the solution. There is part of our party that does have a solution.
Yes,
that
I know.
party is the progressive, the progressive left.
Right.
Their solution is get rid of Trump, get rid of Trump, get rid of Trump. We got rid of him though, right?
I thought you were going to say that magic word abortion, which has now come up since supposedly the Supreme Court is going to overthrow Roe versus Wade, which so it seems to me like a Democratic Party point, we need help. Well, let's go to the old abortion issue and say they're going to overturn abortion so people will rally around us. Is that correct?
I think you're going to see, and this is why I say it's a purely divided government, is that I think you're going to see through a conservative Supreme Court a reallocation of what is called state rights. And, I'm not going to get into this debate today over federalism versus state rights. As a constitutional reader, I actually believe there's justification for both. But in the last 50 years, the Supreme Court has advocated federalism being our predominant way of looking at our laws. I believe that is, through this abortion issue, just one example of several examples of where you're going to see the Supreme Court is going to say, okay, states, you handle these issues in your state.
Well, what Governor Kathy Hochul has done was she's allocated $15 million for people coming into New York to have abortions. And I don't know if I want her to spend $15 million for people to come into New York to have abortions. I mean, what is that going to do for the state? And the word is, well, hopefully they may stay in the state and move here. All right. Which, do you think that's sound logic? You're almost.
Do I think that sound logic? It almost sounds like the federal government conversation when we talk about the Ukraine bill, right? Is it too big? That's the question. Governor Kathy Hochul, she is proposing, I think, a very admirable proposal when it comes to abortion. And I think here in New York, we really don't have any issue when it comes to abortion, right? Because if you leave it up to the state, well, here in New York State, we're more than covered. But now the question becomes is, well, how big should that budget, allocation be? And I think that's the concern of a lot of people.
Well, on my blog at www.100%.blogspot.com, I have a link to the governor's office, and I always put up where she's spending $100 million upstate for this, for a water treatment plant, $50 million in another part of the state, upstate. She's spending all of these millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and even $60 million right before the Senate voted to allow Brian Benjamin to withdraw. She spent $60 million in Yonkers, which is where the state Senate majority leader is, Andrea Stewart-Cousins. So, I've lost my faith in Andrea Stewart-Cousins. If she can be bought off by $60 million for school aid, I have no faith in her. And the only two people that I have faith from the Bronx is Gustavo Rivera and Alessandra Biaggi, who refused to vote to allow Brian Benjamin to get off the ballot. Everybody else, including yours and mine, current Assemblywoman, you're still in the 80th Assembly District until January 1st. She voted.
No, I'm not.
You're still in the 80th,
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not. I wish I was, but no, I'm not.
Speaking of that, let's wish Assemblywoman Natalia Fernandez a happy 34th birthday, which she celebrated last night. Now,
I understand she had a great time last night, and she was moving very freely.
Would you explain freely?
Yeah, she was having a good time. She was giddily, guttily, gay, and just, moving around very freely.
Gay? Well, all right. I
don't mean gay in the context you might need it. I mean gay in the sense of just being happy. Just being happy.
I wish I could have attended. I got an invite from the Bronx Democratic Party, but I obviously was at another event where I was at the Pelham Parkway Neighborhood Association. The executive board was having a dinner, and I was over there. So why didn't you go to Assemblywoman Fernandez's party?
Sadly, there's only one legitimate and good reason, but sad reason. And it's called grading final exams.
Grading final exams?
Mm-hmm.
You took that over being with Natalia Fernandez? I can't believe that.
Well, considering that 18 students and a paycheck depended on it, yeah.
All right, you could have done that till 2 a.m. after you came. Well, no, you would have been drunk when you came back. So you're right. You better do it before you drink. Okay, let's move on. We were talking about state rights. Let's go into district lines. Okay, now I have on my phone, if I can bring it up, the May 11th. I hate this phone. It's a new phone. I got to get used to it. And here we go. This is I don't know if we can see it or not, the ruling by the judge. And I'm going to have to take my glasses off to read this. It is the court, it's Judge, Supreme Court of Steuben County Clerk, State of New York, County of Steuben. It's the defendants against Governor Kathy Hochul, Lieutenant Governor and President of the Senate, Brian Benjamin, which I find surprising. Senate Majority Leader, Pro Tem of the Senate, Stewart-Cousins, Speaker Hasty, Board of Elections, State Legislature, etc. The Court of Appeals rendered this matter directed for the record proceedings of the Court of Appeals. Well, what it says is basically, it's a 4-page, it's really long. And what it says is they have not changed the assembly lines. They're going to leave them intact. Okay. But they've come out with a political...
Robert, I think you should be a little more specific than that. What they said was they were going to leave the new assembly line intact.
And
so not the old ones,
no,
the new ones.
And they've come up with a political calendar, which the first day to collect signatures is 5/21, which is the day after that the maps are going to be released to the public. The last day to accept or decline nominations, or I should say the filing period to file the petitions, is June 8th through June 10th. So you have 3 weeks to collect petitions. Last day to accept or decline is the 13th. Last day to authorize, the 13th. Last day to file substitution or file vacancy created by declination is the 15th. And general objections and specs are rolling depending on when they're filed. And the last day to file specs is 6/15. Now, the one thing that's in here is candidates that already collected signatures for Congress and the state Senate do not have to collect again. So that puts our friend Mr. Dion Powell out of a job there. So he can't collect any more petitions. And it says they do have to file a letter that they...
I don't know if it puts him out of a job because notwithstanding the craziness of the whole situation, it's going to allow more people to apply to run. I know there's many rumors in many district areas that people are considering running. And if those rumors are true, then there'll be work. And there'll be all kinds of work because, you know, as I said to you off camera, now that the courts have basically created a political summer, and I call it a whole summer going into the fall, you know, there's action all over the board. You know, the assembly race is now in campaign mode. The Senate race is now in campaign mode. New candidates would be in petition mode. So there's all kind of political modes going around, and I'm sure people like Mr. Powell, the peer person you mentioned, and then the other people, and I've gotten several phone calls myself. There'll be nothing but work.
Well, but also what I forgot to say is that the current primary date, June 28th, will be for governor, lieutenant governor, controller of the state, and attorney general, as well as assembly, any judges, and the party positions of the Democratic Party.
Right.
August 23rd is now the second election date for Congress and state Senate.
Right.
Now, in races to watch, we've been watching this 36th state Senate race, which is Alessandra Biaggi's old seat. She said she's going to still run for District 3, but I can't see District 3 coming up into Westchester County where she lives. And I could see that she would have to run against Jamal Bowman. Do you think that's possible?
With Miss Biaggi, I don't know what's possible anymore. I mean, like I told you off camera, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree, I would love to have been a fly on the wall when some idiot gave her the advice not to run for a Senate seat and go run in Timbuktu land, an area you're never familiar with, and half of those people you're not familiar with are more conservative than you. So, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. Now, the race itself, it's an open seat. So I think one of the things that you're going to hear soon is, as I've indicated, there are wins in certain districts where people are considering running. I hear in the 36th Senate district, there are some people that are considering getting into what is already a crowded race.
We've already had two of the candidates for the 36th Senate district, Lisa Haflick and Christian Amato, on the show. And I'm hoping that we get the third one, Migli Aris Camilo, because Jamal Bailey, the county leader, said to me, oh, well, we don't want her on there because they have to collect petitions. Well, she doesn't have to collect petitions anymore, Jamal. So when can we have Miss Camilo on for an interview, since we had the other two candidates? And also,
Robbie, you're absolutely right. I would love to have her on a show, but I'm going to guess, based on that Riverdale rally that was held for her a few weeks ago, that she's going to probably have to kiss a lot more babies first before she gets on our show, because outside of the muckety mucks being there, I understand nobody was there.
Well, I'd also like to have Jamal Bailey himself, the Bronx Democratic Party leader, State Senator Bailey, on, so he can give us a little bit information about his candidates. I mean, I'm sure
Senator Bailey, come on the show.
I'm sure he wants to push his candidates, and now he might even have a challenger. Who knows? Depending on what his lines are.
He could.
All right, but in the assembly, which comes up in June 28th, we have only a few minutes, so let's continue with the state senate, and then we're going to go to a break. We have about 3 minutes left for the break, so let's continue on the state senate. All right, Senator Gustavo Rivera all of a sudden is now doing a job. He put out another press release about another health benefit he's doing. He's pushing this marijuana, or what's it called now? What's that fancy name for it?
Cannabis.
Cannabis, yes. But we heard nothing from State Senator Gustavo Rivera about COVID-19. He is the health committee chair. Why didn't Gustavo Rivera say anything about COVID-19? Gustavo, come on the show. Explain to us why you didn't say anything about COVID. Did you catch
I have a feeling the reason why he hasn't done that, and you're right, he should come on our show as well. I would love to see his cannabis samples that he's been exploring and researching, which I'm sure has taken so much of his time that, as you indicated, he's not doing his full capacity.
No, he never did. Wow, pardon me. I like Gustavo Rivera. I like him. And he was in charge of the first Not 62, if you remember. And Gustavo Rivera told us not to.
Yeah, I can see how the cannabis is helping with his Not 62 campaign.
Well, I just wonder if he's going to be doing the same thing he did for Not 62, because he lost 15 pounds, but then gained back 35. So if he does that for the cannabis.
Now, was that before or after the cannabis study?
Oh, that was before the study.
Well, before the legal study, right?
Yeah.
You don't know if he's done any prior studies before it was.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But he's had his wits about him, so I don't think he really smoked it, much say like somebody on the other side of the screen next to me. I mean, you experimented with illegal with cannabis before, didn't you?
I if you're asking me when was the first time I smoked a joint, I don't take this to be 100%, but I would say 1979.
So your
when
brain,
of course, it was a lot better.
It was better?
Oh, absolutely.
I thought they just cut crabgrass and mixed it in with it.
Oh, no. In many ways, it's no different than today. Meaning you have, I think you asked me this question one time, that you have what's called general weed or general pot.
Right.
And then you have what's called your exotics. And in our day, they weren't called exotics, but we had our special brands too. And I would venture to say, if I had to compare apples to apples in those days, the exotic brands of today are nothing like the exotic brands of yesterday.
All right.
Much more expensive though.
And yeah, Anthony, I was around you. Anthony and I used to play poker. And Anthony, when he was losing, would say, well, I have to go out for a cigarette to break his bad luck. How bad was your luck, Anthony, in poker?
Not bad at all, Bob. As you forget, and sadly, I got to remind you, and of course, I got to share with the audience that yes, you and I and other people in our circles have played poker off and on for 20 years. Unlike most people, being a professor of personal finance, a numbers guy, I keep track of how our games have gone over the years. And I commend you for coming in second during a 7-year span of keeping track. However, I came in number one.
Yeah, well, you guys really didn't want to play with me because I didn't lose. I had about an 80% winning ratio. All right.
You're right. I had
Because
90.
what's the one key factor in poker? It's not winning how much, it's how much you don't lose and how much
Do
you
you
save.
know that there is a publishing company that wants to make life easier for you as a writer? This publishing company is called World Inkers Printing and Publishing. We publish in all different languages, and we're looking for writers of all genres, all formats. We're looking for scholars, ghostwriters, playwrights, poets, short fiction, novelists, you name it. We're looking for anybody who is interested in writing and the craft of writing to be in touch with us. You can reach us at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. With World Inkers Printing and Publishing, you do not require a lot of money to publish with us. Contact us today at info.worldinkers@gmail.com. Become a winner with other authors at World Inkers Printing and Publishing. Give us a shot. We will surely finish you. Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, and how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.
All right, welcome back to Talking Politics, Friday the 13th. Watch out for those black cats walking in front of you. And let's get back to our talk, Anthony. Let's go to Dion Powell for a moment. If you remember on this show that I said that 3 of his petitions that he collected for 3 different candidates, one in the 80th Assembly District, one in the 81st Assembly District, and one in the 82nd Assembly District, all on the same day, March 19th, I thought there might be something wrong with them. Of course, I'm not going to do the job of the district attorney or whatever, but it's up to them to investigate. But it seems that Mr. George Diaz in the 81st Assembly District has been thrown off the ballot. Irene Estrada in the 80th Assembly District was thrown off the ballot, which only leaves Al Quattlebaum left as, still on the ballot. What would you think of if you were a candidate in getting signatures, having Dion Powell getting your signatures, Anthony? Because you've gotten you've had people get signatures, and you've had to clean them up. And people, candidates came to you in the past.
Right, which is why I'm a little I don't want to sound biased, what I'm concerned about, because you're right. Off and on, I've handled different parts of the petition gathering process for 20 years. So I guess maybe to answer your question, the answer would be Dion Powell wouldn't work for me because I've already got people that work for me. So so that's probably the best answer I could give.
Well, no, there are people.
But let me ask you a question, since you brought the whole conversation up. You indicated not once but twice that you were going to bring this information to the district attorney's office. Have you done that?
We've had conversations, and I can't go any further. As a reporter, I don't have to work with them, because of the media, the press shield. I don't have to say anything. I'd be willing to work with the district attorney on this case, though. And it's up to the district attorney. We've had conversations I've had with the district attorney office more than once, several times actually. And we'll see what happens. The district attorney has up to 7 years for this. And we've seen in the past where they had a candidate where they let him get elected. They had him wear a wire, let him get reelected, not once, but twice before they ended the charade. All right. And that was District Attorney Bob Johnson. It's all depends.
You don't have to go any further than this year and to the description that you made a minute ago, right? Because think about it logically. You're in the state Senate. Think about it logically. You just said, according to law, that people that have gotten petitions don't have to get any, right?
Right.
So what happens if the district lines change by just one block? Just by one block. That means petitions that should be invalidated will actually count for that seat. So that should tell you how, how stupid this whole process is, unless, and I can see the envelopes going there right now, saying, well, if that's the law, then let's keep the lines the same.
Well,
because if you change it by one block, that means that those one block of signatures should be invalidated. And the fact that the court said, no, we'll accept them anyway, tells you how corrupt our system is.
Anthony, 10 years ago, similar situations happened where and I mentioned this before, there were no books, and I was told, well, we told the incumbents not to go into the fringe areas. Okay.
No, but Bob, this is different, Bob.
No, I understand.
Totally different.
I know that.
You just read a court decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is different than me walking in the room saying to you, hey, Bob, don't go over to the so and so. This is a court decision. A court has said that if the lines move by one block, 2 blocks, half a block, 6 blocks, no matter where they move, we're still going to count those invalidated petitions.
No, those potentially invalid petitions.
No, if you move it 1 block, that 1 block is invalidated.
Well, if there were signatures,
2 blocks, those 2 blocks are invalidated.
I would suspect, and again, I mentioned this, that the master has to go by the first set of lines that the redistricting committee, the independent redistricting committee, used. Okay, and that's going to be a guide. All right, he's going to probably look at the current lines and try and get them as close together as he can.
Well, I think the court sort of already guided him because, like I said, how do you now say as the what is he called, the
master, special master?
Right. I mean, after you've gotten that guide from the judge, right, which pretty much says we're going to accept them. Well, now how do you go against the judge? So right? How do you go against the judge? So 99% of it is going to be those maps, right? Because how do you go against what the judge has already said?
Mm-hmm. Well, let's look at the assembly races that we need to watch. What's happening in the 78th Assembly District? Is Shaniqua Charles still on the ballot or not? I think she was knocked off. Am I correct on that?
I can't speak specifically as to whether she's on the ballot or off, but I can tell you that I know she's speaking with counsel about it as we speak.
Okay, so that leaves us George Alvarez, Emmanuel Martinez, and Jose Rivera, the incumbent. Now, Jose, I guess, we said this how many years ago? They're going to have to carry Jose out of the Assembly, Senate, out of the Assembly chambers.
Probably.
And, he's the incumbent, so the incumbent has the advantage. Emmanuel Martinez is the chair of Community Board 7. So he's got a little advantage there, being the chair of Community Board 7. George Alvarez, well, let's see. Where is George Alvarez from? He ran in the 79th Assembly District last time. So I don't know why he's running in the 78th, but he can because it's redistricting and anybody can run anywhere. So that's probably why, unless he's got a thing he's going against Jose Rivera. Okay, maybe he's pulling votes.
More deeply into that race, and it's in my opinion, it's somewhat sad, is that it's not George Alvarez going against Jose Rivera. It's Adriano Espaillat going against Jose Rivera. And the only reason I say it's sad is because when Adriano first started to represent the North Bronx, many elected officials were not welcoming him, but one that took him in and supported him 100% when most people did not was Assemblyman Jose Rivera.
But also Jose Rivera has former councilman and state senator Ruben Diaz Sr. on his side. So it's basically Adriano Espaillat against Ruben Diaz Sr. and Jose Rivera. I mean, this is nothing new. They've had battles before.
Well, it gets a little deeper than that too, because as you indicated, Emmanuel Martinez is, an up-and-coming rising star. He's chair of Community Board 7. He's a member of, help me, the Lower Hatch Democratic Club, which is located on Fordham. As that district has been having this three-way fight now for over 10 years, this could be the accumulation of it all.
Well, also we had George Alvarez was associated with Ruben Diaz Sr. when he ran last time for the 79th Assembly District. So I don't know. That's a hodgepodge. We know in the 80th Assembly District there's going to be no primary since our Assemblywoman Fernandez's opponent was knocked off, and her real race might be in November against what's the name? Phyllis Tiz Nastasio.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who will be the Republican and conservative candidate. And she has come up in the neighborhood. She's on Community Board 11. She's a teacher at a local private school.
Bob, I would tell you, if you love the stories of Mother Teresa, look up Tiz Nasaro. She is a very loving woman, and she is probably one of the few women that, titles and political titles, I don't think mean anything to her. You can call her a Republican, you can call her a Democrat. She calls herself a community activist, and I think that title probably fits.
Okay, let's go to the 81st Assembly District. With the departure of George Diaz from that race, what does that do, Anthony? It now puts Jeffrey Dinowitz one-on-one against a DSA candidate, that's Democratic Socialist of America candidate Jessica Walford. How do you think that Mr. Dinowitz will fare, or Assemblyman Dinowitz? Against George Diaz last time, he wound up 65-35. And George basically, I don't know, did he file a financial disclosure statement or did he spend less than $1,000?
I couldn't tell you.
I would think he spent less than $1,000.
I couldn't tell you. What I can tell you, though, is that I think it's going to be a repeat of what you've been seeing in Riverdale for the last several years, which is there seems to be a growing, younger, slightly more liberal movement happening in Riverdale. And to answer your original question, how would Jeffrey hold up in something that's been growing in his neighborhood in recent years? Well, we've seen as this movement is growing, his once very predominant numbers have been coming down.
Right.
So I think he'll win the election against Jessica Walford. I think Jessica still has a lot of uphill climbing to do. However, I do think it will be a healthy competitive race.
And Jeffrey's going to have to empty that piggy bank out probably that he has.
Yes, in more ways than one. And I hope the Ben Franklin Club is still around. I hope they're still healthy. It was amazing to see that none of the 100 to 200 to 300 members that Mr. Dinowitz likes to profess in his Ben Franklin Club did not come to the state senate rally they held.
No. I got to correct you on that. The assemblyman was there. His son Eric was there. They're members. And I saw one other member that I know, Dan Paternak.
Okay. So how many members were there? How many Ben Franklin members were there? Would you say 10?
I don't know. I just saw Dan Paternak. I didn't recognize any others.
So then you only saw 2?
3.
You saw
the 3? The two Dinowitzes and Dan Paternak.
So let me ask you a question, Bob, but I know you're not a math guy. What is 3 divided by 150?
3 divided by 150 is about 1.5%.
You're absolutely correct. That was your attendance in a Ben Franklin attendance in a Riverdale rally that Ben Franklin professes controls Riverdale. We know what their past attendance has been at quote unquote Riverdale-based rallies.
If you want to say
this was atrocious,
Tony,
I think, and I'm not the president of Ben Franklin, thank God, because I understand they have a new president, again, a much younger young lady, but they have a lot of growing, I think, to still do.
Well, again, Dan Panek doesn't live in Riverdale, though, because when he ran for Community Board 8 chair, and I was on the community board at the time, I said, wouldn't it be great to have a person who isn't from Riverdale as chair of Community Board 8? So there were only two that I saw, the two Dinowitzes from Riverdale. Okay? That's what, unfortunately, that's probably why Dan Panek couldn't get any traction in the council races, because he's not from Riverdale. As we saw, the Riverdale candidates got some traction. It was Eric Dinowitz and Mino Laura, the two top.
Well, Bob, I don't disagree with you. I don't disagree with you in its totality state. But again, you're almost proving part of my point that if you're suggesting you have to be a Riverdalian, if that's your suggestion, then again, I don't understand how a Riverdalian who's running for office, right? Because she lives in Riverdale. She was endorsed by the Bronx Democratic Party. She was endorsed by the Ben Franklin Club, who represents Riverdale, right? I don't understand how only 1.5% of the club can show up.
Well, that's not. You're going to have to ask Assemblyman Dinowitz that.
No, but I'm going to your question.
No,
I think
and I'm sure
right? that was your question.
I would be surprised if State Senator Bailey, the party leader, didn't say to Jeffrey, where were your people? Okay. But let's go to the 82nd Assembly District. Do we think we've seen things shape up over there a little bit. One of the candidates who was announced has dropped out, to the Community Board 10 District Manager, Matt Cruz, and he's a terrific Community Board District Manager. I think he's one of the best. And I'd like to see him stay, and he's going to stay as district manager of Board 10 for a while. But we have Michael Benedetto, Al Quattlebaum, and Jonathan Soto. And we're seeing nothing really from Mr. Soto. And Al Quattlebaum is trying, but he's only up in Co-op City. You and I went to one of his functions, and there were, you could almost count the people on your hands.
No, I wouldn't.
I know. There was more.
No. I think that's unfair. Al had his first event, so it was his first one.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, I was. We both attended, and it was a while ago, so I'm going back in the memory banks. But I would say there was at its maximum point, maybe 50 to 75 people there. Was it a great turnout? No. Was it a reasonable one, being his first one? Yes. Is he actually getting more traction than Mr. Soto at this point? I actually think he is.
Right.
But Al still has, again, using the same example, a lot of climbing to do.
Right.
He's willing to do that climb. The question now becomes is, how big is the hill? Michael Benedetto has been there a long time, has represented that area for a while. What I think is going to matter, though, is not just how big that hill is, but how much support Bronx County is willing to give him to keep that hill steep.
Correct. And, they were mad at him because he went against their candidate for the city council. He went with Monique Johnson, who was your candidate. So, you were working with, Benedetto in the past. Any chance of you working with Benedetto again?
Oh, look, Bob, and this is where the gray hair comes from. I've been in and out of political circles here in New York for 25 years. So, the good, bad, and ugly of it is you never say never, like they say in wrestling today, right? You never say never.
Mm-hmm. Benedetto is the chair of the Education Committee. Mm-hmm. And if I was running after him, I'd beat him up on that. I mean, Look at Bronx public schools. They are the worst in the city. They are far behind the rest of the city. And, you know, I wish I could have gone today to see Mayor Adams, because I would say, what are you doing to bring up the student performance of Bronx public school students? All right. But I was preparing for this show, unfortunately. So,
you know, Robert, the reason why I'm shaking my head, and I apologize, it was just an instinct, is last night I was actually talking with some parents, and they were around 50 years old, about public education. And what scared me in this whole conversation was that I shared with them, and I'll share with you and our audience, that now public colleges are being very concerned because they're being asked to water down their standards, because the standards that were once in high school and once in junior high school have been so watered down that now they're asking the public colleges to water their stuff down so they can match the new college standard. And there's a lot of professors, a lot of faculty, a lot of administration that are very upset about that. And that's a conversation happening in CUNY right now.
Anthony, that's been going on for 25 years. In colleges like Lehman, where you teach, or they've had to have remedial programs. And these are 4-year
right. But I can tell you that, and I don't want to get over technical here, but the core programs that you're referring to really only affected, I mean, you know, of course it was created for a reason, but the effect was maybe only 10 to 15%. The other 85% of the high school population was deemed eligible to take standard college courses. So you only had like 10, 15% you were trying to help. That was 20, 25 years ago. Today, that 10, 15% is now more like 60.
Right. But that's why the community colleges were brought up. They were there to meet the gap between high school and college so the student would be prepared. You went to 2 years in community college, you picked up what you missed in high school, and then you were prepared for regular college, like Lehman. But, you know, we see that, unfortunately, as things went on, I hate to say this, mayoral control has been a failure. And right now, they have till June 30th, the legislature, and it seems like they've done nothing on it. And Assemblyman Benedetto, like I said, is the education chair. And he's in a no-win situation, Anthony. If they keep mayoral control, he loses. If they don't keep mayoral control, he loses, because there's nothing in place to take over. So I think they're going to give Adams 2 years, and in those 2 years, try and come up with an alternative if Adams doesn't improve the schools, because these schools are terrible, really.
Yeah, well, I think that's the one thing that, you know, you, me, and a lot of our audience have probably universally agreed upon. I personally think you could be right. They're going to wait till the last minute, sweat him out. They might give him 2 years, and after that, there could be a lot of issues.
It seems like he's getting a little disgusted with Albany, because he was supposed to go up and talk about changing the no cash bail and decided against it. He stayed in the city that time. He didn't go up to Albany when they were discussing it. So I think he's losing faith up in Albany with the state legislature.
You know, Robert, he's not the only one. He's not the only one. I thought that if Mayor Adams could have done anything, and he's doing it, so I got to commend him for it, is that he is a Democrat in the liberal sense that, to me this was always the key, was, like myself, a young man growing up in the 1970s. So we knew exactly what was going on. Like I always tell you, there's no book or movie or anything else that can replicate that unless you've lived it. So I've always said, you know, at the end of the day, those things are going to be reminded in his head. And as you've seen in his recent actions, it's now hitting him. It's now hitting him. And what he's realizing when in his response is that he's like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't know you guys were so progressive. And that's what's happening. That he knows we have to go back to strengthening some of our laws, knowing that he's a product of the 1970s, but everybody else isn't. We got a question. I'm going to read it. Why should the politicians do anything if you are going to vote for them simply because of the letter after their name? And this is from and I might be saying this wrong, so I apologize. So sophisticated.
Well, that's because the Republican Party in the Bronx sold out many years ago when Guy Villela was the chairman. Guy Villela did not want to have any other Republican elected official because he thought it might jeopardize his leadership on the county Republican Party. All right, John Calandra Jr. tried to run for assembly, and basically Guy Villela, the Republican Party leader, did nothing for him, and John Calandra lost because they didn't.
What's so sophisticated is also saying is go to single anyone, but that's what all people are doing, simply voting for people because of their political party, which is why they don't have to fulfill their promise.
Right, and like you say, years ago, I was affiliated with certain elected officials. And when I said to one of them, why don't you educate the people? They'll be smarter. No, we don't want to educate the people. Then they won't vote for us. We want to keep them.
I also think, and she's not mentioning names, so I can only speculate. But I think she also could be talking about people like Miss Biaggi. As I said to you off camera, and I'll say it on camera, I think the biggest shame with Miss Biaggi is that even though her grandfather is known as a crook, I still believe she has ruined his legacy here in the Bronx. Because as we also know, and notice I call him crook first, because that's what he was, right? He was a crook. But like with most political crooks, and hello, political crooks of 2022, maybe you can learn something. So political crooks in 1982, at least they gave back to the community. The community got resources. So maybe the community, they couldn't see all of, the other resources because they were so busy getting their resources. Those were the crooked politicians in 1982. As you just indicated, Bob, the crooked politicians of 2022, they're not doing anything, right? You just said you get Governor Hochul's money report. Let me ask you a question. Has she given any recent money to New York City? Has she given any recent money to the Bronx?
Well, that's what I try and point out. I put up sometimes Senator Schumer's where he's giving $500,000 upstate to do this or $100 million. They're all like they're looking for the upstate vote when 60% of the vote is down here in the city. Okay,
which is why Eric Adams can't get his bills passed, his proposals passed in Albany.
I want to go back.
Still have that progressive flavor going on.
I want to go back to what you said, and I don't want to call him a crook. You said the crooks of 2022. I don't want to call this man a crook, but it seems that our former borough president has 3 jobs. One is
what I understand, yes. If you're talking about Ruben Diaz Jr., yes, he currently has 3 jobs.
All right. One is with Montefiore, which is fine. Then there's a consulting company that he's with that's already, trying to lobby the city. And then another consulting company. Now, what the rule is, he's supposed to wait 1 year till he's out of office to do any lobbying with the city. So I can't see how he's doing lobbying within that 1 year. I mean, that should be investigated. I'm wondering who's looking at that. It wouldn't be
probably the same people. Probably the same people that looked at Brian Benjamin when that news came out 4 years ago. Because again, it wasn't new news. It was news that came out 4 years ago in his state Senate race. And what did those people do then? Nothing.
By the way, Anthony, we still don't have a lieutenant governor. Mr. Delgado has not resigned from the Congress.
Right.
So he's still a congressman and not our lieutenant governor.
So you're still eligible, Bob. That's correct.
And you. But also we can talk about, our friend Kenny Augusto running in 2 different assembly districts. It brings me back to, is his living room in the 80th Assembly District so he can run in the 80th Assembly District for state committee? And is his bedroom in the 78th so he can run as a judicial delegate in the 78th? We've seen that before. Okay. Well, we're still here. We're going to probably wind up with that. He's given us a little hint. We got 3 minutes to go. So do you have anything in the final 3 minutes, Anthony, that you want to say?
Guys, I just want to wish everyone a healthy and happy weekend. Please be aware on our show, Financial Focus University, live at 5 p.m. We're going to be talking Bidenomics, but we're also going to be talking debt and credit. We're going to talk about how to use a credit card more responsibly, and we're going to talk about how to improve your credit score. Well,
I want to just finish up with what's happening Sunday, or better yet, pardon me. Are you going to the movie at the Williamsbridge Oval tonight by your councilman, Eric Dinowitz, at 8 p.m.?
I am bringing my niece, yes.
Okay, so he's got the movie going tonight. And
that's if it doesn't rain, Bob. Because, as I indicated, I think they moved Bronx Week too early, and part of my logic seems to be pulling out. We're supposed to be getting a cloudy, rainy weekend.
Yeah, but that's April showers bring May flowers, and Sunday is the finale.
But we're in May, and I don't see the flowers.
Okay, Sunday is the finale to Bronx Week on Marshall Parkway. It is the Bronx Week parade across Marshall Parkway. On the other side of the parkway is the food festival, and then later on is the concert. It is one of the biggest draws in the Bronx Week. All right, and I am just waiting. It's back after 2 years of not being here. I can't wait to see the parade, who's at the food festival, and what the concert is. And that's, Anthony, it's right in your backyard.
I always have fun. Everybody come to Bronx Week. You're right. It's in my backyard. It's always a great time.
And it's Van Cortlandt Avenue to basically Southern Boulevard is where they start the parade. And you right in the image of the Botanical Gardens.
Just come to Marshall Parkway. The Norwood side is the parade. The Bedford Park side is the food festival. The parade.
Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.